The year 1919 marked a turning point in India's struggle for independence. The First World War had just ended, leaving deep scars on the world. India, a colony of the British Empire, had contributed significantly to the war effort. Indians had fought bravely on behalf of the Crown, hoping their sacrifices would pave the way for greater autonomy. However, their hopes were soon dashed. The end of the war did not usher in an era of peace and prosperity as many had hoped. Instead, it brought about a new set of challenges and hardships for the people of India. The war had taken a toll on the Indian economy, leading to widespread inflation and unemployment. Prices of essential commodities soared, making life difficult for the common man. The war had also exposed the inherent inequalities and injustices of the colonial system. The post-war economic situation in India was dire. The war had drained India's resources, and the British government imposed heavy taxes to recover its own losses. This further burdened the already struggling Indian economy. Inflation was rampant, and the prices of essential goods skyrocketed, making it difficult for ordinary people to afford basic necessities. The political climate was equally tense. The British government, wary of growing nationalist sentiments, enacted repressive measures to tighten its control over India. The Government of India Act of 1919, also known as the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, offered limited self-governance, but it fell far short of Indian aspirations for greater autonomy. The act was seen by many as a betrayal of the sacrifices made by Indians during the war. It was in this tumultuous period that Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, a lawyer who had recently returned from South Africa, emerged as a leading figure in the Indian nationalist movement. Gandhi, deeply influenced by his experiences fighting racial discrimination in South Africa, brought with him a unique philosophy of resistance, satyagraha. Derived from the Sanskrit words satya, meaning truth, and agraha, meaning insistence, satyagraha advocated for nonviolent resistance to oppression. Gandhi believed that true power resided not in physical force, but in moral strength and the courage to uphold the truth. He argued that through nonviolent resistance, Indians could expose the injustices of British rule and ultimately win their freedom. Gandhi's message of satyagraha resonated deeply with the Indian masses, who were yearning for a leader who could guide them towards independence. Gandhi's philosophy of satyagraha was put to the test in a series of local campaigns in the years leading up to 1919. In 1917, he successfully led a satyagraha movement in Champaran, Bihar, against the oppressive indigo plantation system. The victory in Champaran, though small in scale, demonstrated the potential of satyagraha as a tool for social and political change. Gandhi's next satyagraha campaign took place in Kedah, Gujarat, in 1918. This time, he mobilized peasants against the British government's decision to collect land revenue, despite a severe drought that had ravaged the region. The Kedah Satyagraha further cemented Gandhi's reputation as a leader who could champion the cause of the oppressed and stand up to the might of the British Empire. In 1918, Gandhi launched another Satyagraha campaign, this time in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. The textile workers in Ahmedabad were demanding better wages and working conditions. Gandhi, who believed in the dignity of labor, joined their struggle, leading a hunger strike that forced the mill owners to concede to the workers' demands. The Ahmedabad Satyagraha showcased the power of Satyagraha in resolving labor disputes and securing the rights of workers. The year 1919 saw the British government introduce the Rowlatt Act, a draconian law that further fueled the flames of discontent in India. The act, passed despite strong opposition from Indian members of the Imperial Legislative Council, allowed the British government to imprison suspects without trial and curtail civil liberties, in the name of maintaining order. The Rowlatt Act was widely seen by Indians as a direct attack on their basic rights and freedoms. It was viewed as a desperate attempt by the British to suppress the growing nationalist movement by instilling fear and silencing dissent. The act sparked outrage and protests across India, uniting people from all walks of life against what they perceived as a grave injustice. The resentment and anger against the Rowlatt Act reached a boiling point on April 13, 1919, in the city of Amritsar, Punjab. A large crowd of unarmed Indians had gathered at Jallianwala Bagh, a public garden, to peacefully protest against the Rowlatt Act and the arrest of two prominent nationalist leaders. General Reginald Dyer, the military commander of Amritsar, arrived at the scene with a contingent of troops. Without warning, he ordered his men to open fire on the unarmed crowd, trapping them within the enclosed garden with no escape route. The firing continued for several minutes, leaving hundreds dead and many more injured in what came to be known as the Jallianwala Bagh Massacre. The Jallianwala Bagh Massacre sent shockwaves throughout India and beyond. The brutal massacre of innocent civilians, including women and children, exposed the true nature of British rule in India. It shattered any illusions of British justice and ignited a nationwide wave of anger and resentment against the colonial government. Section 7. Hindu-Muslim Unity, the Khilafat Movement. In the aftermath of World War I, the Ottoman Empire, which had sided with Germany, faced dismemberment by the victorious Allied powers. The Ottoman Sultan, considered the caliph or spiritual leader of Muslims worldwide, faced deposition, a prospect that deeply troubled Muslims in India. Gandhi, recognizing the potential of the Khilafat issue to unite Hindus and Muslims against the British, threw his weight behind the Khilafat movement. He saw in it an opportunity to bridge the communal divide and forge a united front against colonial rule. Gandhi's support for the Khilafat movement cemented his position as a national leader who transcended religious boundaries. Section 8. The Non-Cooperation Movement, A Nation Awakens. Against the backdrop of widespread anger and disillusionment, Gandhi launched the non-cooperation movement in 1920. It called for a boycott of British goods, institutions, and services. Indians were urged to withdraw from government service, refuse to pay taxes, and boycott British schools, courts, and legislative councils. The non-cooperation movement marked a significant escalation in the Indian struggle for independence. It was a call for complete, non-violent non-cooperation with the British government. The movement aimed to paralyze the British administration in India and force it to concede to Indian demands for self-rule. Section 9. The Legacy of Non-Cooperation, a Turning Point. The non-cooperation movement, though ultimately withdrawn by Gandhi in 1922 following an incident of violence, had a profound impact on the Indian freedom struggle. It mobilized millions of Indians across the country, cutting across religious, caste, and regional divides. For the first time, the British government faced a united front of Indian resistance, challenging the very foundation of its rule. The movement instilled a sense of self-belief and national pride in the hearts of Indians, demonstrating the power of collective action in challenging colonial authority. Section 10. Conclusion. The Unstoppable March to Freedom. The period after 1919 witnessed a surge in India's national movement. It was a time of economic hardship, political awakening, and the emergence of a new form of resistance under Gandhi's leadership. The satyagrahas at Champaran, Kheda, and Ahmedabad showcased the potential of nonviolent resistance. The Rowlatt Act and the Jallianwala Bagh Massacre exposed the brutal reality of British rule, further fueling the flames of discontent. Gandhi's masterstroke in uniting Hindus and Muslims through the Khilafat issue, followed by the launch of the non-cooperation movement, marked a turning point in India's struggle for independence. Though the path to freedom was long and arduous, the events of this era laid the groundwork for India's eventual triumph over colonial rule. The spirit of resistance ignited during these tumultuous years would continue to inspire generations of Indians in their fight for a free and independent India.